All the way till high school, the only thing I wanted to be was a pilot. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I wanted to join the NDA and fly MiG-21s.
Is it true thermal and a quarter is 3 months and a quarter month?
The four of us registering and it's a band name. And I was the notional quarter Malayali. The vocalist left immediately because he got a job in Singapore. I've actually not seen him again. From 96 to now, I've not seen him. The gratitude I have to these people for just giving me that chance to say, it's okay, come play. You have some enthusiasm. At least you're showing up on time. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would never have put you as a Jayanagar boy.
Why? I'm a hardcore cant boy.
No, in the way you speak, there's a very
convent education.
There's a very convent education feel to it. You studied in which school there?
The first school that I remember really well was called the Home School.
Okay.
It was
which is not what people are now doing, homeschooling.
So that's why I made a point to say it's called the Home School. Right? So I was not homeschooled. This place was called the Home School.
And the syllabus was?
It was SSLC. SSLC syllabus. But the school was started by some Aussie missionaries. And when I was there, the headmaster was a hardcore Anglo-Indian gentleman called Mr. P.C. Syme. And his son, Mr. Morris, was our PT master. And the principal was this little cool lady called Mrs. Madhapa, who everyone was terrified of. I mean, she was tiny, but she was a terror. And but it was a very interesting school because tiny classes, I think 25 kids was the max. We had a music class every week, taught by another Anglo-Indian called Mrs. Marker. And so it was in a very real sense a convent school, but SSLC syllabus. And some great times. I had a lovely time there. But they, at that point, didn't have high school. They stopped at 7th grade. And very strict discipline thanks to Mrs. Madhapa. And specifically with dress. I remember you had to wear a vest and your white shirt. And you had to wear a full sleeve vest, not a half sleeve vest. And your full sleeve vest, the sleeve cannot be longer than your shirt sleeve. So if it was longer, you had to fold it. So it wouldn't be visible under your shirt sleeve. And if your vest sleeve was visible under your shirt sleeve, you'd get a little wrap. She used to have this long pencil.
Pencil?
You'd get
or
these
not
long
cane, pencil.
It's a long wood pencil. And she'd have a little claw, like a hand thing on the end of
Yes,
that.
I know that one. Yes, I know
You get a little wrap on your knuckles.
On your knuckles. So you have to put your hand out and...
Yeah,
we used to get whipped with the whistle, the rope. That. So we'd put our hands out because our nails needed to be cut. I studied St. Germain High School. Your nails needed to be cut.
Oh, you're a German.
Yeah. it's uncanny every time.
Of course.
So, and then if it was not cut,
capital punishment.
You're like if your hair was a little longer, it's like this and pull your hair. Painful it was, but that was the discipline that we had that time.
Yeah.
In Jayanagar, when you were growing up, what was that place like? What were the things that you would do growing up as a kid in that area?
So, Diagonal Road on Jayanagar 3rd block is very close to Elephant Rock. There was Elephant Rock Park. There was a small thing with a big rock with an elephant painted on it. It was also close to Lalbagh. It was also close to Krishnarao Park.
Yes.
So, the parks were a big part of my growing up in Bangalore, and they're still a very strong memory of childhood, right? Playing in Lalbagh, playing in those parks. I was into climbing a lot. And like I said, every weekend, because we had the van, we'd be in Shivaganga, Devarayandurga, Malki Betta, BR Hills. We just keep going out, trekking. So there was a lot of outdoors. There was a lot of outdoor stuff that we do because that's what he was into. And so a lot of hiking, camping, rock climbing, that kind of stuff. And since I was the only son, I think I probably got a disproportionate amount of attention from my parents. And given how their lifestyles were never too busy.
Too busy, yeah.
In the sense that they always had time, right? Like I remember it was embarrassing at the time, but when I started cycling to school, from 7th to 10th, I joined this school called East West, which as I was joining, it was splitting into two bits, and one of it became
East, other became West.
Yeah, that would have been nicer at least. But the branch that I ended up in being called the PTA school.
The Parent Teacher Association.
Yes.
No. Really? That's what PTA stood for?
It was called the PTA school.
And the other one was? We don't know.
East West remained East West. So this was just some breakaway faction or whatever. It was at Ashoka Pillar. And by the time I had joined that school, we had moved to BTM layout. It was called micro layout back then. And so I had to cycle from Macaulay out to Ashoka Pillar. It was about 8 kilometers. And this was in 7th and 8th grade. And he had the time at that point because, and he knew I was embarrassed by having him cycle with me and so on. So he'd be at like a,
Distance.
100 meters
Just viewable
distance
distance.
behind me. But he cycled with me for almost 2 weeks every day, up and down, just to make sure that I knew what I was doing in traffic and traffic in the
That traffic at that
late
time,
80s,
yes,
early
yes,
90s.
yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Which would have been more bullock cart and cycle and auto
Buses and autos,
Very
a
few.
few things. I mean, through 4th block Jayanagar was the only part where you had traffic.
Where you were.
Yeah.
What cycle were you riding at that
I was
time?
in Hero Ranger. I wanted the boom boom
BSMAC.
shakalaka boom boom shack. Street cat's gonna knock you back. That's the street cat. BSA street cat.
Yeah.
That was the other. But it was a little more expensive, and so I
Yeah.
ended up getting the the Hero Ranger.
The Hero Ranger.
I had a blue Hero Ranger. Yes, yeah. It was a great bike. I come from very interesting parents. I mean, that's another story. It's quite a story, but
Tell. We are very interested in interesting stories.
so my parents are. I mean, my name is Bruce Lee Mani, but I'm a Tambram, right? And not in any sense of affiliation or belief or anything like that, just by accident of birth. But they are. I mean, my folks are Tambrams, and they grew up in Matunga in Bombay, where all the Tambrams grew up, and. But my dad was a very peculiar individual. I mean, if he called me Bruce Lee Mani, and that's my name in my birth certificate, it's not a stage name, it's not an affectation of any sort. It's what my official name. You probably have the inkling that there was something not quite right to this guy.
Or creative.
Yeah, you could say that. But he was a high school dropout. He, very unlike typical Tambram norms. Because all Tambrams are good at Carnatic, and they all get into this whole
Correct.
scene, right? So, and he was one of the best generalists that I remember in terms of he would know a little bit about everything, not a lot, but a little bit about everything. So you'd have a conversation about almost anything, and that was him. But in 1970, he and my mom decided that Bombay was getting a little too crowded, and they'd heard good things about Bangalore.
Okay.
And so they had a tiny apartment, and they sold that. And they put the money into some kind of whatever fixed deposit, and they had a Java motorcycle, and so they biked down from Bombay to Bangalore.
What?
Yeah. So they came here in 1970, and they sold the bike, and they had that little money they put aside, and so they both said, let's not get a job for a little while. Let's just chill, because Bangalore was like very peaceful.
Beauty.
Yeah, and so they spent, I think, the first couple of months in. There's a bakery called VB Bakery.
Yes.
In Jayanagar.
Yes.
So they knew the owner, and they stayed with him in a little for a short time. Yeah.
Oh.
And then they found a small house on Diagonal Road in Jayanagar 3rd block, and he did some kanak, and they figured out that from whatever they were getting from interest, they could pay rent, they could have 2 meals a day, and they could buy 1 LP record every week. And they did
very specific
math. Rent, 2 meals a day,
and 1 LP record every.
no money for gas, which means that they sold the bike and bought 2 bicycles.
Whoa.
And then from 1970 to when I got born in 1977, they bummed. So they were, if you can think of Tambram hippies, that's what they were.
Oh, that visual. Beautiful.
Yeah. They just bummed. And my mom remembers it as being the happiest time of her life. She said it was like a 7-year honeymoon. They just chilled, dude. And it was crazy. I mean, she tells me all these stories. So they would wake up first thing in the morning, and the same VV Bakery guys had a farm somewhere, and they had a well in the farm. So they go and swim. First thing in the morning, go and have a swim in the well. And she was terrified because there were snakes and frogs and all that stuff. But my dad, you already know what's coming. Like, what's just jumping on the hell.
What's that?
Yeah. And they'd go hang out in Lalbagh with a couple of books. And then once a week, they'd go to HMV House and buy an LP only after listening to all the songs. And if they like all the songs, they'll buy it. And they'd bribe the HMV House girls with some food that my mom would make. And they'd travel. And how would they travel? They wouldn't stay over in a place, because then you have to book a hotel room.
Yeah. You have to pay for that, which was not part of the
Which was difficult, right? So they'd travel at night and just spend like days in different places. And they've gone over the entire country. 7 years, they just bummed.
What we'd give for that now.
Exactly. And for me, it's like the courage. No insurance, no... If something went wrong, something went wrong, right? Yeah. But that is it. And then after I got born is when he's like, I guess it's one more mouth to feed right now, so I need to get a job. And so he did. But he always did all these random things. I never knew what to, when in school and they asked me what your dad did, I didn't know. From the beginning, he was always very much into music. So there was a lot of music playing at home. He was very much into jazz and 50s pop and stuff like that. My mum is a trained classical tambram, trained classical vocalist and Bharatanatyam dancer and stuff like that. So there was a lot of Carnatic music playing at home as well. But I kind of gravitated more to the Western stuff because dad was a kind of big influence on my life. But all the way till high school, the only thing I wanted to be was a pilot.
No.
I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I wanted to join the NDA and fly MiG-21s. And I was insane about aircraft. I was crazy.
Did you try?
No, I didn't, because I joined Christ College after school and did science because there was a requirement to join the NDA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in my first year of PUC, I lost him. He died in a road accident.
Okay.
So, and I was the only son, and so yeah, mum was pretty destroyed,
right?
And I just couldn't leave. I couldn't leave home at that point.
Correct.
Yeah, and so yeah, life just changed, and I kind of fell into music a little bit.
While you were in college, did you start playing in the band?
Yeah, so after I lost dad, and I knew that I couldn't, run off and join the NDA anymore and whatever. In first year of PUC Christ College, I'd already had some positive musical experiences because I could play a little bit. And in my first year, there was within the college a competition.
The intra-competition.
The intra-college competition, yes, to pick the cultural
team,
so to speak. It was called,
all of us have gone through that.
Yes, it was called Darpan, I think. And so in my first year PUC, I managed to get third place in that competition.
Okay. This was solo?
Solo, yeah.
Guitar?
Yeah, guitar. I played La Bamba. But by second year PUC, I had met Sunil Chandi, who was the founder, bass player of Tamil Nadu Quarter. He had joined for first year degree. He was 1 year my senior. Rajiv was already in college, but he was 2 years my senior, so I hadn't met him yet. But then, as part of some All India radio, they invite colleges to come and do some talent showcase or something. And so we actually wrote a tune. It was the first tune that we ever wrote together.
You composed a piece?
Yeah. We wrote a piece, and
That's guts.
I don't know if it was guts. It was just it was basically
or the folly of youth.
All those things put together, and also blatant plagiarism. Because at that point, I just discovered Dave Brubeck, and so if you listen to that first composition, you can see I'm just ripping off bits and pieces in terms of time signatures and whatever else. But whatever, it ended up being this little tune called Indigo, which we went and performed at All India Radio. And that was really the first musical thing that the three of us did. And then after that, we said, hey, okay, we seem to be able to converse musically. And then we started, doing some jamming, trying to do college competitions, things like that. And one thing led to the other, and here I am.
Is it true thermal and a quarter is 3 mulls and a quarter mull?
Basically, we were the Christ College A team after a while because we won we were the selected team to represent the college in other college competitions and so on. But in 1996, at the St. John's Autumn Muse competition, they had a separate category called the semi-pro.
Yes, I remember that.
Which was basically for people not in college to be allowed to take part. And so we had a vocalist at that point. It was so I sang in the Glorious Choir for many years. Before that, the Bangalore School of Music Choir and so on. It's the only place where you could learn stuff back then. If you want to learn about music, a little bit of theory and harmony and chords, you didn't have schools you could go to and stuff. So somebody told me, go join a choir, you'll learn some stuff. And I went and joined the Bangalore School of Music Choir, and then after that, Glorious. And then Glorious, we had met this chap called Ajit Varghese Abraham, who wanted to be part of a band. He had just graduated, he was in some ad agency and so on. And so it was his idea to say, hey, let's do this semi-pro category at St. John's. And so there's the four of us registering, and they said, you need a band name. And it just so happened that there were 3 Malayalis, and I, because my parents, they have some roots in Kerala, was the notional quarter Malayali. So Sunil Chandi just came up with this name and said, oh, there are 3 mulls and 1 quarter Malayali, thermal and a quarter. So it is a joke, and it started like that. But we won that competition. And the vocalist left immediately because he got a job in Singapore. I've actually not seen him again. From 96 till now, I've not seen him. Right? So he kind of founded the band
and then left.
Left
you with the name also.
Left us with the name also.
Autumn Muse from Joseph's, there was Gangama's Pleasure.
Oh yes.
You remember Prakash Hule and all of those people.
Fubi.
Yeah. That was the other semi-pro band. You guys used to go head
Crimson
to
Storm.
Oh yes.
Gangama's Pleasure.
Yeah. After you left college, you continued with Thermal. Thermal and a Quarter still exists. It's one of those bands that
next year is 30 years, dude.
How do you survive? being part of a band if that's your only gig?
Well, it starts off as not being your only gig. I mean, so 96 we started the band and we won a lot of competitions back then because we were among the few bands at that point in the college scene to be writing original music, right? So
okay.
we wrote, most of the songs we played would be our own, right? And one of the biggest wins back then was 1997 at the law school.
National Law School, yeah, I remember that as well.
Yeah, Legala it was called. And it was the prize money that back then was 25,000 rupees.
It's a
In 97,
lot
that was a
of
shitload of money
money.
in
Yeah.
1997.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It basically funded the first few demos that we recorded and all of those things. So it was great. And to win that against Kangammas, against Moksha, against Crimson Storm, against MDs, was a huge validation because most of those bands were playing covers and we were playing our own
I know there were extra points for original music.
originality.
Originality was the, sorry, yeah,
Column.
there's one column.
So yeah, and we were winning competitions like that just by playing our own music. So there was a lot of motivation to keep writing. And before we recorded our first album in 2000, released our first album in 2000, we had almost 16 songs recorded, just demos, right? Some of them are horrible, they're terrible in every way, in every possible way, songwriting, sound, recording, everything. But I view that as if we hadn't done that, we'd have done nothing else, right? Like our very first recording was done at this place called Ebby Studios in Banaswadi, close by, and we had 1,000 rupees. And we went to some of our peers in the local scene and said, "Macha, we want to record." And like, $1,000 you can't do shit, dude. I mean, come on, you can't even record a snare drum for 1,000 rupees. But that's all we had because I think the competition prize money was 3,000 rupees. We split 2,000 and we had $1,000 left. And so we went to this Ebby Studios and there was an engineer there, Mr. Augustine, who I still meet once in a while because his son Judah is in the music scene and so on. And he kind of just looked at us and said, Papa, exactly. Come on, guys, let's do it. And we didn't even have instruments. So we went to Jeffrey Pope, borrowed a drum kit. I didn't have a guitar, I borrowed a guitar. I didn't have a guitar processor, borrowed that. And I managed to put myself in a bunch of situations where I was surrounded by musicians who were leagues ahead of where I was.
Okay.
So in 97, and this is also after Dad had passed, so I wanted to, in some way contribute and stuff like that. And so I started doing, Alan Rigo?
Yes.
So Alan Rigo...
to stay on Church Street.
Rest House Crescent.
Yeah, Rest House.
Passed away recently, quite sadly.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he, again, I met him somewhere and he saw that I was looking for something. And he gave me my first chance playing at the Orange County Restaurant, Manipal Center, serenading table to table. And yeah, so I was making $250 a night, right? And going table to table and singing whatever songs I knew. And there was the other amazing thing of that was that your repertoire had to become fairly large. You had to learn a lot of songs.
Were you taking requests as well?
Yes, I mean, so you have to know all the hits at that time. And for whatever reason, Orange County was frequented by a lot of families with kids. And that's where I'd get hammered. Alan had a bunch of songs specifically for kids. And he had all these cool things. He had a little horse puppet and he put on his thumb.
So cute.
He'd be playing guitar and the horse would be on top of the, on the guitar like that. And so kids loved him. And every time I went in there and a kid showed up, they'd say, "I want Alan." And I was like, "Dude, you got Bruce for today. I'm sorry, but this is what I got." So in 97, I joined a hotel band at the Windsor Manor, a band called Quicksilver, and playing every night. So we'd play from 8:30 p.m. to 1 a.m. every single night, Tuesdays off. And again, that was incredible, surrounded by guys who were way older than I was and who were just so much better musicians because they've been doing this and they knew hundreds of songs and they could just jam their way through things. And till now, I'd been singing in the college scene where basically you plug in a mic and you go for it. You just sing, right? But here's the Windsor Manor, the Wellington Room, where you're supposed to be like active wallpaper. You're very quiet. You play with your volume on 1 kind of situation. You're supposed to be quiet. And I didn't know that. Nobody gave me the memo. And I showed up on my audition night. And I'm playing guitar and then somebody asked for a Bryan Adams song, which the singer didn't know. And I knew it. Right? And so I sing this Bryan Adams song. I think it was Everything I Do It For You. And I don't hold back. I'm just belting. Because this is my college thing. Right? I'm singing. And after a while, I'm noticing there are guys in the tables like, "Oh, this is loud." Kind of, they're kind of shrinking away from the stage. The rest of the band is shrinking away from me. Like, we don't know this guy. He's passing through. But anyway, I sing it. But the guy who requested it, I think was either in the middle of proposing to his fiancée or something like that. He loved it and he gave us 1,000 rupee tip, okay, which in 97 was a hell of a lot of money. And so the band was like, you're not ready for this yet, but you're lucky. We haven't gotten a tip this size in a long time. Okay, but then they told me, look, hey, you can't like turn your volume up and it's like really quiet. You're just playing on the side. You're not the main act. No one's come to see you, right? Which was not the case for me in the college thing. You're standing in front of like 1,000 college kids and you're like playing a competition and they love you and all that shit. This is not that. And so you had to learn to have fun at low volume. And you're playing every night. You're playing like 50, 60 songs every night. And they're playing. Yeah, it was humiliating. And I've had several like kick-ass humiliation public, right? And yeah, that's basically how you learn, right? You end up like... So I was with Quicksilver, a hotel band. I was with Lucid Dreams, which he remembers. That was a heavy metal band. And again, I was completely out of my depth. But there was a guitar player there called Ajay Philip, who put me on the track towards, if you want to get good, this is what you got to do. So I played in a hotel band, a heavy metal band, a traditional jazz band, Rex Rosario Quartet, where again I was completely out of my depth. Again, I got in quite by accident. The guitar player wasn't available. Somebody had
That's
met
been
me.
The story of your life.
So complete randomness. And so I joined this jazz band, and I remember the first gig was at this bar called JJ's, which was near the old HL airport. And in the audience is Gerard Machado, who is the preeminent jazz guitar player in Bangalore. And I'm sitting there completely and utterly out of my depth. I can play a few things, I can just barely comp to save my life, but I can't solo over these things. And I know it, right? I know I suck. I'm trying to hide behind my amp because the guy's like sitting over there. And during the interval, I go up to him and he just looks at me and says, man, you need to go and study. You don't know shit, And so I was standing there saying, okay, so how do I do this? And you do this by just doing it. You just show up and you keep, picking up things wherever you can, and that's it. I also played for a Hindustani fusion band called Krishna at that time. Again, completely different from everything else that I was doing. So I was fortunate to find myself in a bunch of these kind of situations where everyone I was playing with was just leagues, miles,
They
years.
knew their stuff and you could learn from them.
Yes, and I could learn from them, right? And much of the learning sometimes was like this, by the seat of your pants, boss. Here's the gig, show up, play. And sometimes you suck. And
that scares me so much.
It's terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying, especially like the first gig for a Hindustani thing, and people are there expecting, Praveen Godkhindi is playing flute, and he's like already a past master when I was a kid in that band. And all I can say is, the gratitude I have to these people for just giving me that chance of saying, it's okay, come play. You have some enthusiasm. At least you're showing up on time. Go ahead. So which is why, the academy and everything else that we do is so much based around, you got to give that back, man. If those people hadn't welcomed me and welcomed this, I was 18, 19, 20, whatever, and they're all, they've been playing for 20 years or 30 years at that point. So it was, nothing but gratitude for all of that, saying, come play.
Wow. You were studying Christ College, right?
Yeah.
And when you, what's the difference now between, when you go back to the college now, how much has it changed from where it was and what it is now?
There were 3,000 kids back then. Now it's some 20,000, I think. And the campus still looks great. It looked great then. It looks great now. And it has a fairly good reputation. People are dying to get in apparently. So
yeah, so many people I know their entry into Bangalore is through Christ College.
Yeah.
How regimented was Christ College at that time?
So I joined in 93, and this was just after Father Anthony Carriel had come in and cleaned up the town.
When you say cleaned up means?
Because before that, there was this whole student union. I think between 91 and 93, a lot of crazy stuff happened. The union went on strike and boycotted exams, and there was a bunch of like mad stuff that happened in those years. Rajiv has more stories about them because he was in college at that time. But then I guess somebody figured that this is not sustainable if you want to build an institution and so on. So they sent Father Anthony Carriel in, and I think he came and just cleaned up the whole scene. He just threw everyone out, and and he figured it out in whatever way, for good or for better or worse. I'm sure the people who enjoyed Spring Fest back in the 80s and 70s would crib about what happened later. And again, I had a wonderful experience in Christ College, 5 years, thanks to being in the cult team. And remember, I was playing in 5 different bands apart from the college band.
Outside of college.
So I was mad busy, right? But I was making a sizable chunk of money at that time.
I would imagine.
Which was great, right? I was paying my own college fees. Yeah, because Quicksilver back in 97, I was making $7,000 a month. Yeah, I was in college, dude. I was in college, and that was I was a prince.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Yeah.
It's a decent amount of money back at that time.
Decent. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
At that age.
Yeah.
And at that time,
At that time, it was fabulous.
Yeah.
And again, if those guys hadn't welcomed me in and saying, and they could have said, you know what, it's only 1,000 rupees a month, but they shared what they got, right? Decent human beings, right? You don't do that. I mean, just think about someone doing that now, right? Saying, hey, this is a company we've started, this is what we're earning. You're a brand new guy, you don't know shit, but we're welcoming you in and we're sharing equally with you. I mean, what is that? It's amazing, right? So, so it was great. It was a great time.
And you went back to Christ College to teach?
Yeah.
They allowed you in?
They did, strangely enough. Because when I was thinking, I had hair down to my shoulders, and I would walk around with this Manali cap all the time. So.
And you were a teacher, you were faculty?
Yes, I was teaching English. So I had a master's in media and communication, and I spent a year working at India.com, INDYA.
This is immediately after college?
2000, yeah.
So this is after your graduation of your master's?
Master's, yes.
So after your master's, you joined India.com?
INDYA.com, yes.
In what role?
I was a contributor on the music channel. Yeah, so there's a portal, right? And so they had a music thing. I was one of the lead writers on the music channel. So I'd write reviews, I'd go to concerts, I'd review albums, I'd write music stuff. So I was a music journalist in that sense. But I was with the Asian Age for a little while. I was writing a column on music for them for a little while. I quit before they could lay me off because
you felt it coming.
I kind of saw it almost around the corner, but by that time I had the bass player in the band at that time, Rudy, wanted to start a music shop, and so we opened a music store on MG Road inside Barton Center. We called it A to G Music. So,
you had money for rent and all?
This is all seen. Okay, so basically my mom, who runs a kindergarten school, so one of the teachers who worked in her school was a lady called Malika, and she had Mridula, and her husband was a gynecologist, and he had just passed away, and his clinic in Barton Center was lying vacant, and she didn't know what to do with it, and she knew me, and we said we want to run a store. She said, okay, you pay me whatever you can, and you can take it and run it.
My God, Bruce!
Random. And so we ended up running a music shop there. And
you were selling what?
Guitars. We were selling guitars and drums.
And you were sourcing them from where?
So Rudy had a friend in Chennai, Pro Music, a shop that still runs, Sudhin Prabhakar. And he was again nice enough to say this, and we have never done retail. Retail is it's not an easy thing to do. It's a whole freaking mad situation. We had no clue. And the space in Barton Center had two rooms. There was a front room and there was a back room. And the front room was all we needed really for the shop. And so the back room became our jam room. And so every morning, because we were all working, I was still working at India. And we had a separate guy to run the store. And so we'd practice from 6:30 in the morning till 8:30. And then Rajiv would go off to I2 Technologies where he worked. Rudy would go to Rediffusion where he worked. And I quit India.com. I did music shop for a while. But we figured that, again, we were hopeless. We didn't know how to handle retail. And our USP was that we were the only store in the city run by musicians.
Okay, so that's a good selling point.
Some months were really good and we made some money.
You ran this for how long?
For about a year and a half.
Not bad, man.
Yeah, we managed to keep it going. And the funny thing was, very, very quickly, it became an adda. All the local musicians would land up, right? They'd hang around for 3 hours, they'd buy one plectrum and, and so it was... And what was even worse was that anytime a really good guitar or something walked in, I don't want to sell that. I want it.
And that's how Bruce has 20 guitars in his house now.
It didn't all happen like that. But it started like that. So in 2002, I quit India.com and finally laid me off. We said, let's do music full time. Because the band had just released album number 2. And we had opened for Deep Purple in 2001. And so we were riding a little wave of, everyone's talking about $1,200. And man, it took 9 months and we were flat broke because the shop wasn't bringing enough money to pay, rent and everything else. Maybe for one person, but all of us, nothing. Right? So in 9 months, we all crawled back, went back to work. Rajiv went back to I2, Rudy went back to advertising. And I started doing this whole corporate communications thing because I knew that. And I worked for a bunch of IT majors for the next, till 2010.
Oh.
So, and inside again, looking back, they were some of the best years of my life because the band continued and the band no longer needed to pay the bills. So we could do what the hell we wanted. The music we chose to write and play was not controlled or influenced in any way by an economic imperative, right? We didn't have to play anything that anyone asked because otherwise we wouldn't get paid because we had a job. It was cool.
Yeah.
Right? So it was great. And so artistically, it was super fulfilling.
Giving up that Barton Center, I think the thing that hurt most would have been the jam room.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like that would have torn you guys apart. We're giving up our jam room.
Jam room. And we took a house in HSR layout immediately afterwards, but which meant a lot of travel for some people. But
When you made albums, where did you release them?
at concerts. So thermalcore.com, which is our first album, it was called .com because it was released in 2000. And I remember walking into India.com. I was working there that time with an armload of CDs and cassettes and just selling the whole lot. And on the cassette was boldly printed, copy this cassette, give it to your friends. Right? Yeah. Screw the copyright shit. Right? Just take it and spread it, man.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted.
Right.
And 2002, second album, we had wised up a little bit and we'd struck a deal with Music World to have our CDs available there.
On
And
MG
we were-
Road? Brigade Road.
On Brigade Road.
Brigade Road.
And we were told very clearly, look, yeah, I know I'm going to put your stuff, but your CD will be on the last shelf, bottom row behind the sign that says toilet. So that's where it will be. I'm like, why? Because I get paid by the people to put their CDs up front. Right? So we figured how the industry works in so many ways. And so we sold at gigs, we sold at every possible opportunity, and you learn that early on if you're trying to, be an artist and market yourself. You can't have any shame about things like that.
Did it at any point become like, hey, we want to say important things? Or was it just purely in the space of entertainment all the time?
Thermalcore.com was more just, us trying to find our sound itself.
Right.
Because it's our first album to release. And so it's a hodgepodge of things. So by Jupiter Cafe, you started seeing the first album explores a lot of questions of this Indian identity that we particularly inhabit. Right? I mean, Bangalore, but convent educated in some sense, think in English, but still very connected to local cultures and mores and foods and customs and things like that. But constantly being pointed out and saying, you're just aping the West, you're playing guitar, you're singing in English, what is this? You're not Indian. Being told this all the time.
Yeah.
But not feeling that way, because the stories we tell, the songs we sing are about India, about our life in this particular city, in this Bangalore. Which is why in Jupiter Cafe there's a song called Look at Me, which people still talk about in terms of kind of trying to encapsulate that identity. Right? Yeah, I live here, I'm brown, I have a goatee, I play guitar. But hey, I still, I enjoy my chicken chow mein just as much as I enjoy my tair sadam. And that's me. That's honestly what I am.
Yeah.
It might come across that we're doing it just so we can say that we do it. But it's quite genuinely felt. It's what we feel and what we sing about.
Because I saw for Rajyotsava, you teamed up with MD Pallavi, and this was with the Azim Premji Foundation. Was this your first attempt with something in Kannada, or had you done something in Kannada before?
I mean, we used to do, in college, we'd be part of the Indian music team and the Western music team and so on. So we worked with, Indian music before. I've, again, never studied it. I don't have any formal background in Hindustani classical or anything else. But I used to play with Raghu for quite a long time.
Okay.
On his first album, I played guitar on many of the songs. The Vachana thing started because, again, APU, Azim Premji University had this radio thing where they do, and they have these podcasts where and there was one particular one about the Bhakti movement and Vachanakaras and things like that. And they wanted to build a soundtrack around that, and they asked me if I have some ideas as to who we could collaborate with. And Pallavi was the first name that came to mind. And so it started off as just a kind of improvised jam at one of the seminar halls of the university. But that jam was special enough for people to say, hey, we have to do something more with this. And then in November last year, so it's just been a year right now, they asked us to put together a whole band with these Vachana songs, but with a full band arrangement, which we took on. And so there's a 7-piece band, which we call Kayaka, which means work. Kayakave Kailasa, Kayaka. And we've got quite a few shows now that we've done. Just Pallavi and I have an acoustic setup that we do. And the full band as well has done a couple of gigs now. And I think we should be playing at the Bangalore Hubba next year.
You've had no official training.
No.
You've picked up everything you've picked up on the job. And then you said, I'm going to teach now.
If you have accumulated expertise and experience in a field for 4 or 5 years, you're not good enough to start instructing other people at the very basic level. You'll find that teaching experience actually leapfrogs your own personal journey of learning in ways that you couldn't have possibly imagined.
That is very true, because many people reached out to me saying, hey, do a theatre workshop, because I've been doing theatre for many years and I've never had the guts to do it because I don't know enough. What am I going to teach you? Right? And then my wife told me one day, even if you do a basic workshop and people come in there, what you know and you impart them, that will already add value to them. So don't look at it as, I'm teaching this huge thing, but increasing delta their knowledge.
I'd say that my real learning happened at 2 phases. One was that phase when I was getting my ass kicked by a dozen guys who were like years ahead of me. And second, when I was getting my ass kicked by students who needed me to teach a certain way, right? For them to really understand what was going on. And so I had to really know my stuff inside out. I had to, break it apart in one way for one person and break it apart a totally different way for somebody else. Which means you have to bloody well understand that really, really well.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what really kind of helped me. From 2003 when I started teaching, and 2010 when both Rajiv and I, for the second time and continuing on, decided to again do music full time. And we said, okay, we're both teaching, so we may as well try and put that into the mix to see if that helps with our overall monthly requirement. And that's how we started the academy. That's how TAAQademy came into being. The name was suggested by a friend of ours called Bijoy, who worked with the band a lot, writing a lot of our blog posts and stuff like that, and documenting a lot of what the band did. Bijoy Venugopal. He used to work at APF as well. And so he came up with the name TAAQademy. And now it's been 15 years that we've had that as well. And so it feels good. It feels good. It feels like an institution of some sort.
But you're an institution, man. Or it feels like an institution. TAAQ is an institution. You had multiple spaces, right? I remember seeing a space on Asay Road near Alsu and one near Whitefield. And now I don't see it. I was telling my wife the other day because my daughter suddenly showed interest in wanting to learn the drums.
Wonderful.
And I was telling her, hey, the TAAQademy is there, but now I don't see it. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, so in 2010, we opened the first one in Kormagla. That was our flagship center at that point. And so we worked and we had our studio. We recorded a couple of albums there and everything. And then
when you say recorded, you had a full setup, console, mics, everything.
Yeah, the works. Beautifully designed. And
so you had your own studio?
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Well done.
So we kind of built the school around our studio. So the studio was the central space, and then we had all these other rooms and everything. It was great. We had Bijoy Ramchandran come in and do the interior design, and we won a national award for it. And so that was our main center in Kormagla. And then 2014, it had done reasonably well, and so we opened another one in Whitefield. And 2019, we were feeling confident enough to say, okay, let's do two more. And we took a nice big loan. And we built two centers, one in Yelahanka and one more on Asai Road. And in 2020, we know what happened.
Pandemic.
So we got hammered. And across the next year, we lost all four. And then now slowly we're kind of clawing our way back to doing offline. Our Kormangla center is just about to come up. Another week or so, it should be out.
Oh.
Yeah, we've got a new Kormangla center. Smaller than the previous one, but yeah.
Studio again or?
Not a full studio, but jam rooms for students for sure.
2010, you said we are now full-time musicians. For someone who's looking to make that leap and say that, okay, listen, it's very scary.
I've got a son at that age right now who's following a musical path. So it's what I tell him. You've got to do multiple things. You've got to be great at pretty much everything that you do. You can't be just a musician, which means you can't just be a guitar player. Right? You've also got to be a sound engineer. You've got to be a music producer. You've got to be a songwriter. You've got to be a composer. You should be able to write scores. You should be able to compose for film, for TV. I think there are some very fundamental questions. So do you want to be a star or do you want to follow an artistic pursuit? Right? And there's no good or bad or right or wrong with any of those things. It's about what you want, right? If you want the accolades and the adulation and the big fans and the 1 million followers on Instagram, whatever, there's a certain number of things you have to do. But if you want to learn about your instrument and if you want to really get good at doing something, there's a whole bunch of different things that you want to do.
Yes.
And if you want both these worlds to coexist, there's a whole third set of things that you have to do, right? So you have to find your way between all of those things. And in my experience right now, that usually comes from not just dabbling, but having fairly deep knowledge in multiple things, right? You need to be a pretty good educator.
Like your dad in that sense.
Yeah, you need to be a pretty good generalist.
Which is your favorite place in Bangalore to play?
It used to be a place called B Flat on Jayanagar.
On Indranagar.
Yeah. And it was just, one of the warmest. It was a small place, but it was run by people who cared about music.
And very good food also.
And good food. And more than anything, it was run by people that cared about music.
Right.
Who really cared about the artists and the music and everything else. And we've had some of our best gigs in the city over there. The Humming Tree is coming back, is what I heard.
Isha was telling me in the morning.
Which is great to hear. And we've had some really good gigs there as well. And I have to include, the first DIY gig that we did. Our first DIY gig was in 1999 at the Ravindra Kalakshetra Amphitheatre. We called it the Potato Junkie Concert. And we did there because it was 250 rupees to rent. I think it's still 250 rupees to rent. So the amphitheatre behind the Ravindra Kalakshetra.
Isn't that where Freedom Jam used to happen?
Exactly. That's how we knew about it. And 1,000 people attend. And and all that was done pre-social media, pre-everything. So just posters.
So posters. Where all you put posters?
Picos, Casa Piccola, all of our regular haunts, college. And also it really helps that you're just out of college at that point.
Yeah,
so
because your network
is still very strong in that community. So yeah, there are 1,000 people in that.
And this was a ticketed show?
30 rupees.
Oh, I love these. See, like if you go to Jagriti now in Whitefield and you see some of their posters, you'll see like posters from the Deccan Festival many years ago. Ticket 15 rupees, 10 rupees at Chowdaya. I was like, wow. Which was your first paid gig as TAAQ?
I think we played. We got an opening act for some other band at Dayanand Sagar College in Bangalore. We got 10,000 rupees. And we are not even, I think we were not even Thermal Recorder back then. And we needed a name, again, we couldn't be called Christ College.
A band.
I think the name we used was Emerge. And that was our first professional, and we got paid for that gig. Yeah.
Quick questions, answer in one word. Okay?
One word.
One word. Immediately you must say your relationship with the audience.
Great.
Stage.
Mixed.
Music.
Love.
Family.
Love.
Social media.
No.
Fine. And money.
Respect.
We have something called a Bangalore dabba. Okay, there are 20 items in that from 1 to 20. You can pick a number, and whatever item comes up in that, I will give you, and you have to tell me story.
Okay.
Pick 1 to 20.
7.
Guru Nanak Bhavan.
Nice. One of my first gigs playing there was me playing solo, I think. I had played a solo acoustic thing, and there was a band called Mixed Fruit Jam who was playing also on the same stage.
Yeah, I've heard of Mixed Fruit Jam.
Yeah. With George on guitar and so on. And George had, even back then, he used to have really good gear. And I think his fancy new Ibanez guitar was on stage because they were playing after I was playing. And I came and did one song acoustic. And I forgot to unplug my guitar as I walked off stage, and my cable got hooked up on the stand of his guitar, and I just yanked the guitar off the stand, and the thing tumbled, and George, poor chap, came running up the stage like, oh my God, brand new guitar and everything. I remember that being a kind of situation, but thankfully the guitar was okay. I don't think he's ever been okay with me after that. But apart from that, I think once I used to work with Pritham Koil Pillai quite often. I've been in a couple of his plays and everything. Yeah.
You acted with him?
Yeah, I did a couple of things, and I also with Akshay Vijayan.
Yeah, my theatre company.
My theatre company. I was Pumbaa in The Lion King. So.
Oh, I did Tarzan with him.
Oh, okay.
It was in 2000 sometime.
Oh, yeah. This is late 90s again. And even now, some like Aarti Punwani still remembers me as Pumbaa.
Yeah, that's where I met Aarti actually.
Oh, okay. So Darayas and I got together there. As Thermal, we played there a few times. We've done some DIY gigs and others. What is it still? Is it operational? Is it?
No, it's fully in disrepair now.
Oh man,
it's so sad. Like,
so nice little place.
Nice central and alternative to the Alliance.
Absolutely.
It was very
sad.
For you, what are the 5 wonders of Bangalore?
Number one still has to be the weather, man.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've not lived for a long period in any other place in the world than here, and I can say with some degree of certainty that this is among the best weather in the world, right? Throughout the year.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never physically as uncomfortable as you can be in many other places.
Yes, yeah.
It's just, and so that changes so many things about your life, your mood, your work, everything, right? So number 2 would have to be some of the local food and how cheap and nutritious it can be, and how easily available across the city. I don't know of other cities that have this level of pretty much assured quality. You walk in and you can be fairly sure you'll get a good meal at a fairly decent price. That's not like garbage. It's like some fairly decent stuff will be in there. The remaining green cover that we still have, I mean, it's fading fast, which is why I cherish it all the more. My wife recently went to MAP and she was on the top floor and she took a picture of the Venkatappa Art Gallery.
Yeah.
the space there. And man, it's still beautiful. You know, you look at
That's
that
because
and
it's
say,
close to Kaban Park as well.
that's
so
true.
That's why.
But you still look at that and say, that's my city. You know, at least one small packet of it, and it still looks like that. The other wonder for me, I think, is always this sense of connection you get when you meet other Bangaloreans. And anywhere in the world, within 2 steps, you already know a couple of common people. And there's a sense of, we're both Bangaloreans. And that's special.
In fact,
I'm sure every city developer feels the same.
When I see a K registration in another city, I'm like, Nammuru. Yeah. And the fifth one?
One of the wonders of the city again is that even now, 30 years from when it was this slightly more laid back, peaceful place, it's still more welcoming to experiment, to offbeat, to niche, to stuff that doesn't necessarily have to be commercially the biggest thing, right? And I don't know if a band like us would have survived anywhere else. I mean, if we lived in Bombay, for example, and we had to even make a bit of our income from playing music, I think the commercial imperative would have been too strong. I don't know if it's probably completely biased.
And that's fine, because I want your 5 wonders. Yeah.
It's my experience.
Yeah.
And like this gig I did yesterday at a house, and the listening sessions I've been going to, I don't know if this is happening in other places, I'm sure they are, but it feels like, wow, okay, there's still a thirst for this, for this connection, for this organic thing about just seeing someone play something that you've never heard before, may never hear again, but there's something there, And I think that's a kind of a Bangalore thing, for me at least.
We end with a little postcard to Bangalore. And you say, from you saying, Dear Bangalore or Bengaluru, as you may, and write a little postcard to Bangalore.
Dear Bangalore, they say there are cities that never sleep. Cities of joy, dreams, sin, angels, and big apples. But this, my metropolis, is home and thus marvelous. I'm so stuck at Silkboard, macha, it's a shambles. So, insert junction of your
choice, of your daily route.
Yeah, Carepuram, Silkboard, Sony World, whatever. See, right? So it seems to dominate all conversations.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But yeah, it's still marvelous. It's home.
It's home. Yeah. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you very much.
It was lovely.